This video I want to discuss an article that is published in Pojman's article. Pojman's article which was published in his anthology, Philosophy of Religion, but it's also Pojman's article, the critique of religious experience. And it's kind of what this is. There's if you read William Alston's Religious Belief and Religious Experience, I have a video about that, or Planting as Religious Belief Without Evidence. I have a video on that as well. I also have a video on religious epistemology and a general intro to that. This is another little video which is about that, and that's what he does here, because he's talking about justification. Basically, he's talking about justification and verifying or making existence claims from religious experience. He starts off first by saying that religious experiences are central. They're the core of religious belief, because that's the only way that they come to having that certain belief. They have an experience, and that's the foundation or the core of their belief. There's a religious experience, what Alston will call a unbelief, which is a belief about the manifestation, of God being in you, or God pouring out on you, that kind of religious talk. There's various indirect and direct ways that God, I personally do believe in God, and that's because of certain religious experiences I've had. And the reason I don't really talk about that here is because I don't think that people who haven't had such things can relate to it. And that's a big important thing in this article. There's different ways that can happen, and also Alston, he talked about two kinds of epistemic practices. There's the perceptual practice, which is looking at basic laws of nature, regularities, and things to in the empirical world, form beliefs about empirical content and empirical perceptual things. That's the typical way that we come to believe things about everyday things. And then there's the Christian epistemic practice, which doesn't have those kind of concerns of regularity. And there's different ways that you come to having beliefs within that epistemic practice. And the argument that I've made, given what Alston has said, is that the way we come to forming beliefs about the regular empirical world, and the way we come to form beliefs about God and religious, experiences, are very different ways of coming to beliefs, and they're very different beliefs themselves. And I think that Alston was correct in putting those two in very different epistemic practices, and an epistemic practice in that it's forming a way of forming belief. It's a framework of forming beliefs. And I've argued, given what Alston and also Alan Plantinga have said, that someone who hasn't had a religious experience can't really comment about another person's religious experience, because they don't have any grounds or way to relate to it, because they don't have anything that can have a kind of relation with somebody. Somebody who's an atheist and has never had any sort of experience like that can't relate at all to somebody who has had that and is a Christian or whatever, or Buddhist or whatever. And the thing is, the problem is that if I'm hearing music, somebody else can confirm that for me, as if I'm sitting here reading, and I'm like, do I hear music? I think that's like Bach or something. Then somebody over there says, yeah, I hear it too. That's a way of empirically confirming things. However, if we have an atheist and a Christian in the room, and the Christian is at that time having a certain religious experience, the Christian can say, "I'm totally feeling God right now. Do you feel it?" And be like, "No." So the religious experience, the ways it's been had are varied, and that's one thing he does say here. He asks two questions. To what degree is the subject of a religious experience justified in inferring from the psychological existence to the existential or ontological reality of that which is the object of the experience? So, given a religious experience I'm having, of feeling God pouring out on me, if I'm talking about the religious talk of religious experiences, if I'm feeling God's presence, or God's talking to me, or whatever, can I go from that to making an existence claim? Can I infer from that on existence claim? People like Bertrand Russell would say, no, you can't make existence claim based on psychological things that have happened to you. A second question Pojman asks is, to what degree does the cumulative witness of those undergoing religious experiences justify the claim that there is a God or a transcendent reality? The question is, how do religious experiences justify mystic realities? Mystic as in transcendent, God-like, etc. There's a lot of things he discusses here, so I think you should read it. And I think this is a perfect anthology. You can see this is pretty beat up. I've used it a lot. He talks about two kinds of justification. There's strong and there's weak. There's strong justification of religious experiences and weak justification. But we're not justifying the religious experience. We're justifying beliefs of God's existence. The strong justification of God's existence, or mystics, or whatever you want to call it, the strong way of justifying God's existence is one person's religious experiences justifying for everybody, atheists and everybody else included, outside of the person who has had the one religious experience, justifying for everybody God's existence. Now, this is people like Richard Swinburne and C.D. Broad. They have that belief that one person having God talking to him, or God feeling God's presence, so something like that, can justify God's existence for everybody else too. I don't agree with that. Neither does Pojman. Pojman thinks that the weak justification is the only plausible way of justifying God's existence. And now we're not talking about like a proof of natural theology, but we're just talking about like epistemic justification of one's belief in God's existence. The weak justification of God's existence is one's religious belief justifying only for oneself God's existence. So if I hear God, if I feel God talking to me, or if I feel God's presence, if I feel God pouring out on me, that can only the justificatory work of that experience can only go so far as myself, and that I would have to agree with. And then we have people like Russell, and others too, I can't remember, who believe that religious experiences do not do any justificatory work. They don't do any kind of justification of any existence or ontological claims. Pojman critiques the strong justification by saying, first, religious experiences are too amorphous and disparate to generalize about, and they're too varied, and I think that's true. There's not. It isn't like, with Alston's perceptual epistemic practice. Hearing a certain tune can be confirmed. And seeing a certain thing can be confirmed, and various empirical phenomena can be confirmed by multiple people. It isn't like nobody has the same religious experience. Everybody has some kind of varied religious experience. And there is Christian communities and religious communities that relate to each other based upon similar ones that they've had. But I would say I would have to agree with Pojman that they are too amorphous and too disparate to generalize or infer anything about in the strong justification way. That's basically the strong justification for God's existence is saying that it's doing this huge inductive relation, or this huge inductive justification by saying, well, I've had my experience, therefore God exists. We can't do any inductive work based upon one's experience about everybody else or the whole world. Second, the justification of verticality of religious experiences is circular. To try to verify the truthfulness, or truth conduciveness, is circular because there's no way of empirically confirming it. We can empirically confirm that gravity is a law. We can empirically confirm various different things within the perceptual world of the whole world. We can empirically confirm things, but this is not something that we can't justify truthfulness or truth conduciveness based upon one's religious experience, as to whether it's psychosis or whether it's a real religious otherness thing. Third, religious experiences aren't confirmed the same way that perceptual experiences are, and that comes down back to Alston and his Christian practice, his epistemic practices of belief-forming processes, of the Christian practice and the perceptual practice. They're two different practices because they're confirmed in very different ways, and the beliefs are formed in very different ways. You can't confirm a religious experience within the perceptual practice. And Pojman basically states that that the weak justification that only one's religious experience can only do justificatory work for oneself only is the only plausible thing, and he kind of bashes that a little bit as well. And I highly recommend you read this. And if you think I've missed something, and I totally agree with him. Also, if you think I've missed something, or if you think I misconstrued something, please comment on the side here. I'd love to discuss it with you. Thank you.